is Jane Talbot, and welcome to episode 8 of the Big Renga Roundup, the show that brings you all the latest news and views from the Big Renga Project, a collaborative poetry project with 13 poets creating 25 verses over 25 days. Now, yesterday we had the third verse in a row on the theme of autumn, which meant that today's poet had choices. And what's a little bit different about today's show is we have with us live today one of our renju, today's renju, Kate Trafford. Welcome, Kate.
Hi there, Jane.
Now, I think this is going to be your first time on the show, and I think there's going to be a second time. So I'm really looking forward to the second time already. Now, listen, it's actually a really interesting situation for you to be in today, because you did have options. You could have continued with the theme for autumn, but you didn't have to because we'd fulfilled the minimum of 3. You could have chosen winter. You could have chosen summer. And you could have gone for a dwellings option or a travel option or a mountains or a shores option. Tell us, I'm dying to hear, what option did you go for?
More autumn.
More autumn.
More autumn.
What I think is really interesting is actually if you read the autumn verses, there's something really attractive about autumn, and there's something really plentiful about autumn, even though it's a time when things are, if you like, dying, falling off the trees. You can begin to understand why the Renga form loved autumn. There's so much to say. So would it be okay for you to read your poem to us, your verse?
I'll be delighted. Acorn hoard squirreled away. Fear conceals buried treasure.
Now tell us about it. Can you tell us, and can you tell those people who maybe don't know much about the Renga form, can you tell us what your Kigo or your season word was? Can you tell us about continuity? Because yesterday we had the mulching mushrooms. I think there was, what was there? There was things being hidden away. I can't remember.
Harvesting secrets.
Harvesting secrets.
Yes.
Right. Yesterday. So how did you show continuity, and how did you show a shift in direction? And it seems to me that in your verse there is more more than meets the eye.
Yes, well, acorn was my Kigo season word, specific to autumn, obviously, and I picked up on Caroline's theme of secrets by talking about this acorn hoard being squirreled away. So, you know, the idea of things being hidden or secret. And I showed an additional continuity theme was she talked about the mushrooms feeding on the dead. So there was like a feeding theme that was quite dark there. But obviously the acorns are the squirrel's food as well. So I had those sort of continuity themes. But my change of direction was hopefully to lighten and brighten things up a little bit after all of that dark, earthy stuff.
I didn't see it as a dark at all. It's really interesting, isn't it, that you experienced that? It's like the turn. It's like part of the grand cycle.
It was dead and poison and all of that. It was a wonderful verse, but I definitely wanted to bring it around. So so the idea of sort of the acorn hoard being food, but it being buried treasure was, for me, that was like brightening the imagery, and it was also moving from a sort of scarcity idea to this idea of abundance. You know, that it was buried treasure. It was a little hoard. So that was my change of direction. And also one of the things that you've been teaching us about, Jane, behind the scenes, for those of us who are not well. I was going to say not well up on 13th century Japanese poetry.
But we are now. There aren't many of us, you know.
I haven't written a poem since high school. So one of the things you've been talking about is this lovely idea of ambiguity. And are we talking about nature or are we talking about human nature? And I really wanted to play with that idea. So the second line, fear conceals buried treasure. At one level, I'm talking about the squirrel and his little hoard, but actually something I'm personally very interested in is this idea that fear masks our own hidden potential.
Mm.
So I kind of wanted to suggest an ambiguity there around, if we back off from fear and we mask it, we really do miss out on the treasure that's on the inside. And maybe some people read that and lean into the fear a little bit instead of backing off.
Mm. So that's a real coaching, personal discovery, personal development verse. Might be our first.
Yeah.
Yeah, very deep. Yeah.
And maybe it's just about acorns. You never know. Yeah.
So listen, Kate, we are on day 8, and whilst our project went live 8 days ago, actually as a project team, we've been working together for more than a month now, getting to grips with the rules, getting to know each other and practicing. What has been being part of a project like this brought to you?
I've actually got a lot more out of it even than I was expecting. I thought it would be fun, and I thought it was a chance to do something completely different, which was going to be quite creative and collaborative, so I was attracted in by that. But actually it has been quite challenging at times, not just for me but for some of the other poets, as you keep referring to us. And it's been quite interesting to see all that perfectionism kind of creeping in, and the need to get it right, and all of the discomfort that comes up when you're not sure you followed the rules, and all of that. And it's a lot to wrap our heads around. So for me, it's been quite interesting. My strategy now was to write this within 2 minutes of reading my guidance, and this is very radically different from my over-prepare kind of normal way of doing things and perfecting. I literally wrote it within a couple of minutes, counting the syllables on my fingers as I went, very, very much letting my unconscious mind do the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only really when I looked at the lines again afterwards that I saw where it came from. And that's been quite exciting. It's just yet another little reminder that we can trust that deeper, wiser part of ourselves to do a lot more, and we don't have to do it all ourselves consciously.
And that is where poetry comes from. It's not really coming from thinking about it. It comes when you get out of the way, when you stop thinking about it. And I think that's I'm just wondering what will happen at the end of the project when people have learned it's like the race of life. You can't just opt out and say, and I don't mean race in a striving way. I mean that life moves on, and the baton is being constantly passed to us at certain times, and we have to be prepared to take the baton, or have the courage to take the baton, to see where that takes us and to gift that baton on. So I'm just wondering, what's going to happen after this project when people find that it is okay to dive in, that you can trust a part of yourself, and that part of yourself is so clever that you can't catch up with it consciously for a while, but it's only after a while that you begin to see the richness in your own poem.
That's exactly it. And it's like, it is a life skill to do that, isn't it? To be in the uncertainty. We can't prepare for this well in advance, because you literally have to leverage whatever the previous poet has given you. And so it is something that you've got to trust yourself to respond, rather than trust yourself to be well prepared. It's a slightly different thing, and I think that's a life skill. So I'm curious to discover how many other areas of my life I should just be doing it in 2 minutes instead of overthinking it, which is
I'm thinking tax return.
My usual. Great, and I'm really looking forward to the baton coming back round to me in a few days' time.
When do we see you next?
I think I can't quite remember. I think it is in a couple of weeks. It comes back to me, isn't it? So I'm looking forward to that.
And what's really exciting, and I just don't know if the penny's dropped in the group yet, is that some people said, I really want to have one of the later verses, because I want to see how it all comes together. But actually, the clever move would to be at the beginning, because as we move on, there's a scarcity now of kegos. There's a scarcity of images, and there's more of a requirement to really shift. So continuity is easy when you're in the same season, but shifting from season to season requires a different order of skill. and then having no words for it, and all the words that you thought you could use have already been used by someone else. So the further we get into this, the more challenging it's going to become. So I think it's going to get exciting.
I think it is, and I think what will counter the scarcity thing is the fact that what I'm experiencing in the group behind the scenes is that the confidence is growing.
Yeah.
And the self-confidence, it only comes from that place, doesn't it, of doing something that you're not absolutely sure you can do and doing it anyway and showing yourself you can do it. And I think that's where we're all at the moment. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Anyway, after all the excitement, I'm going to go and take a lie down. So thank you for doing the interview with me, Kate. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, and I'll see you back behind the scenes in the big Renga project house.
Thanks, Jane. Bye.
Bye.